My name is Lysan Keen, owner of Lysan Keen, a gallery in Boston. I have with me Anna Berghuis. Anna is having her solo exhibition at my gallery, and the title of the show is To Think That We Could Stay the Same. Actually, that's an interesting title. We should actually talk about that later, okay? And it's going to be through March 26, 2023. Thanks for coming all the way from New York, very far away. And also with the snow, the storm and the bad weather. I sincerely thank you for that. Begin. Would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here today. And my name is Anna Berghuis. I'm a New York-based visual artist, and I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, and I'm 26 years old.
Very, very old.
Very old.
I'm teasing you. Tell us about the work you have in the solo exhibition.
Yeah, so I'm thinking a lot about image making in the digital world and what it means to inhabit a body when so much of our lives are happening online, and kind of the dichotomy of what's real that we see, what's unreal, and kind of capturing those uncanny human moments. At the same time, with the digital world, we're never truly alone anymore. Like, I personally grew up with my smartphone. I got an iPhone when I was 10, and the idea of always perceiving and being perceived and consuming and always consuming, like culture, pop culture, people talking images, it's full 100%. So these paintings kind of tackle that and stare back at the viewer and kind of fight back a bit to the online world of image making.
I think images that we see these days are so perfect. People really curate themselves, their images, right? Before they put it online, and there are so many apps these days: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and all this Snapchat. Things sometimes they're so immediate as well. So when you are kind of like poking fun in some way at image making in this modern times, so you are young enough that you grew up with smart devices and the internet, whereas I'm a little older, so I had to learn all that. So for you, it's kind of natural to see things, to see other people on the screen. So I also want to, not just talk about, the distorted, the unruly, as your statement suggests, but the limbs and all the enlarged anatomy. Where does that come from? Yesterday, a visitor came to the opening and asked, why are the eyes so big?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like, the distortion of the hands and arms kind of represents clumsiness and how we're kind of fumbling through all of being a person on the internet, and kind of this like uncomfortableness. And like at first glance, like all the paintings are very colorful, they're very like joyful, but the more you look, the more you see, and there's a lot of hidden messages. I think of painting as puzzle making. Yeah.
That's very interesting. Puzzle making, yes. So in terms of your process, then, would you like to walk through for us? How would you start a painting? Like whether you visualize or compose something first, and then you work, or it just happens naturally for you on the canvas. Maybe you can talk about the one behind us right now.
I can. So the one behind us, which is called The Skater's Figurettes Flight, is actually based on an actual program and event. It's based on Scott Moore and Tessa Virtue's Moulin Rouge program from the 2018 Winter Olympics. And in this one, I'm thinking a lot about movement and distortion and kind of almost cubism in the digital realm and image making. There's a lot of extra limbs and things are moving. And kind of how do you connotate movement in a still image? How does that happen? And it's a challenge to kind of do that with paint. So I kind of made the limbs larger, made these kind of ghostly figures, like the people behind the actual figures, like what are they doing? Are they real people? Or is it a past movement? Like what is it? We don't know. Yeah, and then it's skating is so dance-like and so artful. It felt very natural and very easy to make a painting about it.
So, as you say, that this is obviously an image that is based on a photograph of the skater, the Olympic.
Based on their program.
The program, okay, yeah. Right. So, and of course, in art history, we know like futurism, or even with Picasso, the evolution to cubism, and then how in the early 1900s, when technology was dominating lives, was starting to dominate lives, people were curious about, movement with photography and all that. So when you put extra eye, your eye is kind of, the eye of the guy's eyes, the man's eye is a little wonky and is going a different direction. Probably there's also, like, let's say if you slow down the digital images into frames, probably this might be it, I guess, yeah. And this is me interpreting reading your work. And so sometimes you're inspired by historic paintings as well, like Caravaggio, for example. Why are you fascinated by that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's impossible to not be fascinated by Caravaggio. I think like the why?
Yeah, I see. It's interesting. Do you think that why him? Why not someone else?
That's a great question. I think I'm just in a Caravaggio phase at the moment.
Oh, just okay.
Yeah, it's like a teen crush on Caravaggio. Oh. But more so like the way he does light and the way he composes. I don't think there's no one else who does it like the way he does. It's this kind of old-fashioned composition and structure of light, which we don't see nowadays. And I'm very fascinated by that as a contemporary painter.
I see. Okay, that explains it. So, would you think you will move on from Caravaggio to someone else, perhaps, when towards the later part of your career? Do you think that you will move on from figurative painting to abstraction? Because your work seems to me it's abstracted figures in some way.
Yeah, they're definitely abstracted figures. I'm not particularly interested in realism, but who knows? Like I don't know what the future will tell. I can only say what I'm doing now.
Okay.
It's one of those things where just keep making and see what happens, and yeah.
Well, that actually is a good jumping point into residencies, because that is part of practice, right? And making work. So tell us about, you are right now in a residency. I don't want to take away your thunder. I want you to explain to the audience, the one you did before and then the one you're doing now.
Of course. So I just finished a residency at the Vermont Studio Center up in Johnson, Vermont. And I was there for 2 weeks with a group of 30 artists. So half were writers, half were visual artists. And it was such a treat to be in a serene location with a bunch of other people and just kind of talk about your work and talk about their work and learn about what they're looking at, what you're looking at, and compare notes and sit on the floor at 4 a.m. and it's just like that's what happens when you're an artist. You have like these like late nights with everyone, and it's really what makes it special. And
there's a community. Yeah.
There's a community. Yeah. And I'm currently at a Longmeadow art residency in the Berkshires. And I've been there for a week. I'll be there for between 3 or 4 months, and it's so beautiful and so serene, and so like I can just work forever there. And but they're also emphasizing wellness as well. So yeah.
Okay. So you have all this free time to think, to look at nature, right, and then also to think about your work. And experiment, right? So tell the artist who might be watching, is residency important? And maybe not important for everyone. How important is it to you?
Yeah, I think it's different for everyone. I think it's important to do residencies as a time to reflect not only on your own work, but just on the work of others and kind of contextualizing yourself within the contemporary art realm and world and meeting other people and taking the time to fully commit to your art whenever you can is so important.
Well, the two residencies are are different in that the Vermont one is a group, 30 artists writers, and then this long meter one is you solo.
It is.
Which do you prefer?
I don't know. So I just started. I don't think I prefer one over the other. I think they're so different experiences. It's almost hard to compare. I think residencies are kind of like pets or children. You can't really have a favorite.
That's a good answer, isn't it? Yes. Okay. Well, we did prepare, so we wrote down. Okay. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about you have often depicted sports figures in your paintings. So tell us, like why are you so inspired by them? How is it helping your painting? Were you yourself, a fan of sports? Maybe yourself as a sports person. So elaborate.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, sports has always been about the movement and the athleticism and the physicality of it, and then kind of looking at these physical motions and movements that are so artful and so athletic, and then seeing them distilled down to still images online that don't capture what they're doing at all, and then trying to take that as a challenge to convey movement and feeling and art back into something that's kind of brutalist at times.
Well, yeah, interesting. Oh, you didn't say whether how if you were ever involved in sports yourself.
Oh yes, I was a competitive figure skater in my youth. I loved it. I took it very, very seriously. But I wasn't very good. But I went to nationals once, and that was my goal, so I did that. And I'm a runner. I started running about a year ago, and it's really nice. I think it's really important to take care of your body, and we only have one body, and movement is medicine.
You're a tennis fan?
I also play tennis. Yeah,
Tennis too.
yeah, I do. I grew up watching my dad and my grandfather play tennis. My grandfather played until he was 85 years old with my dad, and I saw them playing, and I decided that I wanted to play tennis with my dad when he's 85 too, so I picked it up over COVID.
Interesting. You know how interesting that you grew up with a lot of sports, but then you're an artist now. So if you're not an artist, would you be a sports person? Or if not, what would you be? It's just imagine the possibilities.
Well, it's a great question. Yeah, I think it's such an odd question. I can't even think of what I would do if I wasn't an artist. I'd probably be a gallerist because I really admire gallerists and what they do, and I think it's a great thing you're doing.
Well, thank you for saying that. Not many artists actually. In fact, I think you're the first one who said that to me about, if I'm not an artist, I will be a gallerist. Like, wow, it's a respect. Thank you so much. Yeah, we were talking about that last night about the relationship between galleries and artists, and whether the role of the gallery is kind of obsolete these days with social media. And I really thank you for supporting what I do. And I think that galleries is a really good space and platform for emerging artists. And we've worked together for quite a few years now. I mean, I started this gallery only in 2020, and then we started working in 2021, and then we since have this is our fourth working project. First time we did a 3-person, and then spring break, and then scope, and then this one. Yeah, so I'm really excited to see where you're going with your painting and your career. I think you have a bright future. So I'm really, really proud to do this with you. You are very bright and very talented. I don't think that we have to go on and on. I think your work speaks for itself. So we are online on Artsy and my website. And you have an Instagram account, Anna
Berghuis Art. Anna Berghuis Art.
Please follow her. Well, any last words? Like, what would you like to say? Or if you want to like talk about a specific painting, then we can just wrap up.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I think we covered a lot, and I don't need to ramble. I'm not a rambler, so.
Well, I think we can't wait to see what you have in the future. So in the meantime, please enjoy this amazing solo exhibition. Anyone would like to reach out, just DM either of us, right? Okay, or email us. So thank you very much to Anna for making the trip and spending time with us. Well, thank you.